If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Just a little prick.
This podcast contains graphic descriptions that some listeners may find disturbing. Listener discretion is advised. Now, with that being said, welcome to the Mortal Musings podcast.
Right, let's do this.
Do you ever be on social media?
Yes.
And so when you're on social media and you know, like you're reading a post and you go into the comments and you're sifting through them.
Yeah.
Do you ever find someone who says something so profoundly fucking dumb that you have to actually click onto their profile and look at their pictures and shit? You're like, I need to see this fucker.
Every day.
Like, do they look as stupid as they sound?
Every day. They usually have, so if they're British, they usually have like a lion sort of tattoo on the chest. Beer belly, heavily tanned from Benidorm.
Oh yeah.
Bald head, stubble. Usually, you know,
What's
horrible stubble.
Okay.
Not the neat
I like a
stuff.
bit of stubble, you know.
3/4 length Lonsdale
Oh yeah.
bottoms.
That's the look.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm getting an image now.
And they're usually saying that they're taking our jobs or something like that. And
Something
you can
to that
tell
effect.
that they haven't worked the past decade.
Mm.
But apparently it's not them being lazy, it's other people doing their job for
Taking
them.
their jobs. From
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
Why? What's triggered you on social media?
Oh, I mean, every day there's something that I'm like, let me just have a look at this little shit bag. Let me see. I mean, don't judge a book by its cover, but sometimes, you know, judge a book by its cover.
Yeah, the Brits, they've usually got a name like Stephen,
Gary,
Les.
Barry, Les. Oh, the Brits love a Leslie, don't they?
Yeah.
Every Brit, right? Okay, if you're British, you either have an Uncle Leslie or your friend has an Uncle Leslie.
Yeah.
Or you are Uncle Leslie.
Yeah. They're usually a window cleaner as well.
See,
Les.
you don't have an Uncle Leslie, but you went out with someone who did.
I did.
Yeah, there you go.
And he was a window cleaner.
No, but, okay. No, I mean, if you're a Brit and your Uncle Leslie or your Uncle's Leslie, let us know. I know this is fact. But I bet that name's dying out now. Imagine seeing a baby.
Hope.
What?
Let's hope.
Well, the name Gary is, apparently.
Yeah.
I know a 20-odd-year-old fella called Gary, and I was shook.
I bet the name Karen's dying out as well now.
I'd say so.
No one's going to name the kid Karen.
Yeah. But Keith.
Keith.
That's not dying out. And that's like kind of accepted as being just a terrible name.
Yeah.
Sorry if you're listening, Kevin. Kevin's not dying out anytime soon. And that's,
Well, we know what I think of the name Kevin.
we all think it, I think, you know?
Well, after probably insulting 30% of our listeners, what you got for us today?
So today, Neil, we are going to be discussing Anthony Allen Shore, a.k.a. The Tourniquet or Tourniquet Killer, depending on where you're from.
It's a tourniquet.
Well, we'll probably go by Tourniquet in this because it's an American case and that is how they will pronounce it.
Okay.
I think I kind of say both.
I've only just bought 2 tourniquets for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So this is wild what you're doing this now.
Wild.
No, I've literally just had one.
I know
my
you.
last one was delivered yesterday.
I know you kept telling me about it with your airsoft game. You needed to buy some.
Yeah.
It was purely a coincidence. I had this open for a while and I was kind of going through tabs and I was like, right, let's pick one. And had a quick look into this.
Yeah.
And then yeah.
Oh.
It wasn't deliberate.
I'm invested now. I'm guessing he used it as a grotch.
Garrot.
What?
What? Anthony Allen Shore was born on the 25th of June 1962 in South Dakota. His parents, Robert and Deanna, were both in the military, which meant that the family moved around a bit before finally settling in Houston, Texas. Now, it was not the best environment for Anthony or his two younger sisters. His parents were said to have argued constantly as well as carrying out affairs. Their marriage would end in divorce in 1976. Anthony claimed that he was the victim of some pretty horrific abuse at the hands of his parents. He claimed to have been regularly beaten by his father, and at the age of 13, his mother sexually assaulted him.
Fucking hell. You know, to talk about beating your kids.
Yeah.
Just let the listeners know. Megan turns to me last night and she went, "Did you know it's legal to beat your kids in the UK?"
Yeah. Yeah, it is. So in Ireland, you can't hit your kids. In the UK, it is still legal as long as you have like a good enough justification, like it was being used for punishment.
Yeah.
They did this, therefore I. Yeah.
So
that's
Megan was
crazy.
basically saying, if kids in hospital and they've got a mark on them and they go, "What's all that about?" And the father says, "Yeah, he finished the bread."
So young Gary over there,
Yeah.
he was playing with matches.
Yeah.
Yeah. Young Leslie.
Well, that's another thing, right? So, smacking the back of the hand, okay, don't play with matches. But what was more effective when I was a kid, when I was playing with matches, is I burnt myself on the matches and I never went near them again.
So you said that to me about our cat. I'm very protective of our pets. I never want to see them get hurt, anything happen to them.
Yeah.
And you said to me, Ty kept going over to this candle. And I was like, Ty, don't, no, Ty, stop. Da, da, da. And you're like, he'll only do it once.
He will.
That's what you said to me. And
Yeah.
I was like, what? And he reached over to sniff the candle. And he didn't burn himself, but he felt the heat of it
Yeah.
towards his face. He is so wary of candles
He
now.
won't go near
He
him.
won't go near them.
Told you.
So I'll give you that one. But generally speaking, no, I'm not going to let my cat or dog injure themselves.
Oh.
You know?
Well, no, I'm not. I'm not looking to get him injured. But with that, I was like, he'll only do it once.
Yeah, you're right about that one. And it was how like firm you said it.
Yeah.
He'll only do it once. So as a child, there was a few warning signs with this lad. He was known to harass and inappropriately touch his female classmates, as well as friends of his younger sisters. At the age of 5, he killed the neighbour's cat.
Why did they always go for cats?
I don't know. Strays? About more, maybe?
You get stray dogs.
Yeah, cat's smaller. I'm not trying to justify it here.
The cats are always getting the back up.
He was also said to have once gloated that he and his friends had beaten a homeless man to death.
Fucking hell.
Now, when I heard that, I was like, okay, well, hang on, that's more than a red flag.
Yeah.
I assume this was some type of whatever was said. They thought, yeah, right, like, calm down.
Yeah.
You know. And if it wasn't and you believed it, lads, maybe go to the police. Jumping on a few years, now into adulthood, Anthony was described as charismatic, handsome, funny and intelligent, as well as being a very talented musician. You know, because of all these killers, I have to say the word charismatic has become a major red flag for me. Yeah, I hate that word
When I
now.
hear it now, it's like if someone called it me, I'd be like,
How dare you?
why?
What is that what you think about me?
Yeah.
In 1983, Anthony married Gina Worley. The couple would go on to have 2 daughters together, Tiffany and Amber, before divorcing 10 years later. After Anthony and Gina divorced, she decided to move in with her boyfriend, and the kids went to live with their father. Now, initially the kids were excited about this. Whenever they had visited their father before, they had always enjoyed the time they spent together. But this changed once it became a more permanent living situation. Anthony didn't keep the home stocked with adequate food for the children. He was more than happy to buy himself steaks for dinner, but when it came to his kids, they were left to make themselves peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Never got that.
It's actually pretty nice. I've tried it, yeah.
It's one thing Americans are obsessed with, and it's like, why?
It's really good, but I've never had jelly. I've only ever eaten jam.
Well, they call it jelly jam.
They have like jelly and jam. You know, like the jelly is like some like goo. It's kind of more like jelly. It looks like.
So it is jelly.
I mean, it's slightly thicker, I think, but yeah, it's more. Yeah, I wouldn't eat that now.
Peanut butter for me. If any peanut butter is in my mouth, it just goes tacky.
You're eating too much. Just a thin
I
struggle
struggle to swallow it.
So just to add insult to injury, the kids were given the chore of cleaning the dishes after his meals. His justification for his meals, compared to those he served to his kids, was that he was the man of the house. And if they wanted to get a job and pay for their own meals, they can do that.
Okay.
Okay. They're kids.
No, but like you should be washing your pots and stuff.
They're washing his. So he's cooked this fucking juicy fat steak in the frying pan, and then they're the ones who are having to scrub it out.
Yeah, but see, this is the thing now, right? With stuff like Revolut and online banking and stuff, people will like have an account for the kid and just be putting money in that. For me to get £1 off of my parents, I would have to like vac the carpet, wash the pots, wash the car, cut the grass.
But I think I'm gonna equate this to you and your upbringing, right?
Yeah.
So you're being served just bit of bread and butter, not even toast, bread and butter.
Okay.
Yeah. While your parents, and I'm gonna pick a meal you like now, they're having a full plate of Coupland sausage rolls, maybe even Greg's,
Yeah.
and they're dousing it in gravy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then on the side of that, they're gonna get a bag of chips,
I thought you were gonna
lashings of
say
salt and
Yorkshires.
vinegar. Or okay, Yorkshires. Would you prefer that?
Yeah.
Okay, loads of Yorkshire puddings again, doused in gravy.
Yeah.
You're not allowed that. You're stuck on your bread and butter. They're having that, and then once they're finished that, you're going to wash up for them. Now, how'd you feel?
Wash their plates?
Yes.
No, tell them to get fucked.
That's what he was doing to his kids.
Oh. I got wrong end at stick with that then. didn't
Yeah. Yeah.
I heard eat and then what their chore was to wash the pots.
I think you should apologise. He chose to assert his dominance through denying his kids their basic needs. But when it came to more material items, Anthony would shower his kids with gifts. You know, the items that people can see and think, wow, these kids are so loved and so looked after. Around the age of 9, Tiffany began smoking. This was something else that Anthony didn't have an issue spending money on, as he was the one to supply her with cigarettes and also alcohol.
Oh, no, that's fucked. Like my dad was 9 when he started smoking.
But he wasn't putting the cigarette in your gob.
No. When my dad found out I was first smoking, he beat the shit out of me.
And that's alright, because it's legal in the UK.
And I'll tell you the exact day I got caught smoking for the first time. I wasn't even smoking. I was at my nanan's straight after school. And on the news and everything, it was Twin Towers. And my dad came to pick me up, and he must have got a whiff.
Mm-hmm.
And while I was sat watching this live footage, he went in my school bag and found a pack of fags. And clipped the shit out of me. Jesus.
That's some way to remember it.
Yeah, I walked in and my nana was like, look at this.
Oh, 9/11.
Yeah.
I heard the smokes, like, what was your dad who found them? Your granny's selling you out. He was an incredibly volatile person to live with, both Anthony and Neil's father from the sounds of it.
Good one.
If something was to interrupt how Anthony envisioned things to go, something normal like one of the kids running late for school, this would result in a massive blow-up, screaming and shouting, and eventually the kids would just come to accept this as part of their life. Tiffany said that she felt her life had become scripted. It all had to outwardly appear exactly how Anthony wanted it to.
Do you always say Anthony?
Anthony, yeah.
Anthony.
Anthony. Anthony.
I've never Anthony.
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 Anthony. Over time, his outbursts would start to become violent. And God help you if you were to become upset. Crying was not allowed in Anthony's house. If one of his kids was to cry from the beatings that they received from him, he would become enraged. If the kids were unable to hold back their emotions during the beatings, Anthony would wrap his daughter's arms in a bedsheet in order to keep their arms compressed against their body, and hold a pillow over their faces.
No. See, I had a mate who, so he had a son. Son was like toddler age.
Is this the one that shit up his back?
Yeah.
Am I ruining it? Sorry, were you going to tell?
No, I weren't going to tell that. If he fell over and say he banged his knee or his elbow or whatever, and he went to start crying, as soon as his face started to change, but he was going to start crying, his dad would be like, no crying in this house. Don't cry. Only pussies cry. And he'd literally just wipe the tears away and stop crying. And he was like, hard as nails, him. And I went,
see some therapy in his future?
I was like, he's going to be fucked. He's going to be unstable when he's older.
Did you say that to him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what Megan's referencing is, so there was only me, my mate, and his son.
Sorry to interrupt you, Neil, but I just want to say, for anyone listening to the podcast, if you're one of our listeners who gets a bit pissed off with the interjections here, I promise you this one's worth it.
So we was sat watching TV, and the son turned around to his dad and said, I need a poo. So my mate went, well, you're a big lad now, you know, and he went, yeah. And he went, do you want me to come in with you? No, I can do it. And he went off to have a shit. And he came back, and my mate said, were you okay? Yeah. And you wiped? Yeah. And you flushed? Yeah. And then he sat back down watching TV. All we could do was smell shit. It was ripe. So my mate got him to stand up, lifted his t-shirt up. He'd wiped shit. He'd wiped shit up to his shoulder blades.
You know what? Anyone out there who's a parent, fair play to you. Because you're quite literally going to see some shit.
Yeah.
Kids are mad, aren't they?
I was like, has he done that for a laugh?
Oh, shitty back over there.
Oh.
Okay, right, back to the story.
Okay.
Like I said, Anthony would wrap his daughters in a bed sheet to keep their arms compressed, and he would hold a pillow over their face to suppress their cries.
Yeah.
This would lead to his daughter Tiffany feeling ashamed of herself. She couldn't understand why she couldn't just do as her father asked, just do what would make him happy.
Yeah. Fucking hell.
Tiffany has also stated that this has had a lasting impact on her. Even years later, she said that if she's experiencing intense emotions, she feels that the urge to cry has become so repressed within her. Something else that Anthony would do is barricade his kids inside the home. If he had to head out for a few hours and leave the girls there, they would be trapped inside. His excuse for this was that the world was full of dangerous people.
It's not wrong. It is.
It is. Unfortunately, one of them lives in their house.
In that house.
Yeah. Now, Anthony did allow his daughters to have friends over for sleepovers. And he would take this as an opportunity to turn into Mr. Nice Guy in front of their friends, but for very sinister reasons.
Yeah.
During their sleepovers, they would, play dress up as kids do and pretend they were in music videos and what have you. Tiffany said she noticed just how involved her father became while the girls were dressing up. To you or I, this is just kids imitating their favourite singer and how they dress. But to Anthony, he was enjoying dressing the girls up in what his daughter described as suggestive outfits. Crop tops, short shorts, miniskirts.
Fucking hell.
Something of a routine in their household was a cup of hot chocolate before bedtime. Now, Amber noticed that the hot chocolate kind of tasted off, but Tiffany just thought to herself it was an off-brand, the flavour just wasn't great. They would later come to find out that this was their father's way of drugging them. Usually after drinking the hot chocolate, Tiffany would just sleep through the night. But there was one night she woke up.
See, there's been times I'm open about it. I'll ask. I don't care. You'll make me a cup of tea, or you can make me something, and I'll be like, "Have you put something in this?" I'll think it tastes funny.
Mm-hmm.
And then once I've asked it doesn't matter what you say, I'm not having it. because I've got it in my head, it tastes funny. Do you get what I mean? I don't believe
Yeah.
you've put something in
It's,
it.
do you know, it's like, is this milk off?
Yes.
And then it may not be off, it may be fine, but once you've had that thought, no, this milk is off.
Yeah. I'll be like, is there a life insurance policy I don't know about?
Tiffany wakes up to find that she's been undressed and her father is sexually assaulting her. Knowing how quickly her father can become aggressive, she was petrified. She knew that if her father found out that she had realised what was going on, he could quite quickly become violent.
It'll be her fault.
I mean,
Right.
yeah, so what does Tiffany do?
Plays dead. Well, not plays dead, but tends to be asleep.
Yeah, she just laid there and pretended to be asleep.
Fucking hell.
After this, Tiffany doesn't tell anyone, stating that, again, she felt ashamed. She also felt as though it was kind of, if I don't say anything, this can't really be happening. Understandably, she desperately didn't want this to be the truth. She didn't even speak with her sister about what had happened, hoping that if he was doing this to her, hopefully he would leave her sister alone. She thought, after all, her father did seem to favour her.
Yeah, I think there's a very similar case to this in the UK. Because I remember the daughters getting interviewed about it years later.
Yes, it was. I remember watching this with you. It was Britain's Darkest Taboos.
Well, because he started on the younger one.
It was a Welsh case, yeah.
He started on the younger sister, and the older one was like, I know what you're going through. He did it to me for years.
Yeah.
And she started, like, defending the little sister. Was it?
I can't remember the exact details, but yeah, maybe one to look into. That was devastating case.
Yeah.
Over time, the sexual assaults became more frequent. Their home life didn't go undetected at school. Teachers had noticed that they weren't being supplied with proper meals for their lunches. Their personal hygiene also gave cause for concern as to their well-being. Not to mention that the girls had some bruising on their bodies. So the school decided to call Child Protective Services for a welfare check. This wasn't the only time that a report had been made, but as far as I'm aware, it was the only time a home visit was made.
See, I don't know, obviously, the ins and outs of it, but I've been told Child Protective Services don't do enough a lot of the time.
Well, that's certainly what Anthony led the girls to believe. Once Anthony was notified about this upcoming visit, he made sure to put the fear of God into these two girls. He had them convinced that CPS were the enemy, and that if they had had their way, the girls would be separated and sent to live in different foster homes.
Right.
He had twisted their minds to believe that they would somehow be better off living with him. And the two girls only had each other for support at that time. They couldn't risk losing each other. Now, I get what you're saying, you know, you've heard they're not the best, but I mean, it's the amount of strain on the services,
Yeah,
you know, and I mean, it's very difficult. We were only talking the other day about, you know, family law and how it's not great. It really should be reviewed on a case-by-case basis, but
Yeah, but
it's not
like,
always the way.
Because I always think of like that case lives in my head. Gabriel.
Yeah.
There should have been more done for him. You know?
Yeah, it's a hard one because obviously these systems are already strained, but also it's, you know, people get failed by those who should be protecting them quite often.
Yeah.
When the day of the CPS visit came, Anthony cooked a stew, giving off that homely smell, and made sure the girls were presentable. As with every other outside interaction in their life, it was a completely scripted event. After this, with no apparent way out of the situation, Tiffany began to feel hopeless, which leads her to taking an overdose of painkillers. She survives through no help of her father, who didn't even take her to the hospital. Not long after this, Anthony and his girlfriend at the time, Amy, decided to get married. The marriage would later end in divorce after she accused him of abuse. You know what? I believe her.
She was probably right.
It was later revealed that Anthony would also drug his partners and sexually assault them while they were in and out of consciousness.
Fucking hell.
So he's like he's a bastard to everyone.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Obviously not to men. Because men had kicked the shit. You okay?
Obviously not to men. And I look up and you're just like... Sorry, do you want to say it again? So I'm not interrupting you.
I was just going to say, because men will smack the shit out of him.
Probably. But anyway, when they decide to get married, Anthony also decides that he didn't really want the kids in the house anymore. He calls their grandmother and asks if they could stay with her for a while. Their grandmother tells him that she was unable to take the kids. Anthony, who is unhappy with this answer, gives her an ultimatum. You take them now, or you never see them again. She agrees to take them, and the girls head to California to stay with their grandmother. Now, while staying in California, Tiffany breaks down in front of her aunt. She pleads with her aunt not to send her back to live with her father, and she tells her everything that her father has been doing. Her aunt is, understandably, horrified, and of course she's thinking, if he's doing this to Tiffany, we need to speak to Amber immediately.
Yeah.
They find out that Amber was also being subjected to a sexual abuse, and just like Tiffany, hadn't said a word, for the same reason that Tiffany hadn't spoken out about it. Tiffany and Amber would stay with their grandmother in California, and in 1998, Anthony was convicted for sexual assault of Tiffany and Amber, and he was sentenced to 8 years probation and was registered as a sex offender. In the year 2000, the cold case of a woman named Maria del Carmen Estrada was revisited. They retested DNA evidence from her case and were able to gain a full genetic profile. It wouldn't be until 2003 when they got a match for the DNA. Anthony, who had been required to provide a DNA sample after his conviction for sexual assault, was a match. Anthony was arrested, and during his interview, he confessed to the murder of Maria. But that wasn't all. Anthony also confessed to the murder of 3 other women and a further sexual assault.
He's opening up a bit.
Huh?
Well, he's opening up a bit.
He fixed the roads? That's exactly how you sound right now.
Is it?
He's opening up a bit.
Well, no, I'm just saying is only done for one, but he's confessed to even more.
Yeah. This is a full-on case as well because, you know, the horrific abuse of his own children. And then you find out.
Yeah.
You know, it's his children, it's his partners, it's random women to him, strangers to him, you know?
Didn't you say his daughter's friends?
He would be very creepy when the friends were over.
Yeah.
I don't know if he did. I didn't find anything about any of them coming forward to say he had.
Okay. But they could have been knocked out from the hot chocolate.
I mean, you know? But that's none of my business. Anthony said during his confession, quote, I was driving around. I saw this girl. And I just said, hey, would you like a ride? She jumped right in. He also said, I remember seeing this girl walking along, and there wasn't anybody around. I just picked her up and threw her in my van, and nobody saw shit.
Bit casual, innit?
Terrifying. I just picked her up and threw her in my van.
Yeah.
During a press conference, the police department said, quote, I wish I could share with you guys what he told us, but it's unspeakable. On the 26th of September 1986, Anthony abducted 15-year-old Laurie Tremblay as she walked home from school. He attempted to sexually assault her before he strangled her to death. He left her body behind a Mexican restaurant. On the 16th of April 1992, Anthony sexually assaulted 21-year-old Maria del Carmen Estrada before strangling her and leaving her body around the back of a Dairy Queen. On the 19th of October 1993, Anthony entered the home of 14-year-old Selma Jansk. While wearing surgical gloves, sunglasses, and a bandana covering his face, he bound her hands, wrapped her face in duct tape before sexually assaulting Selma. He left the property on foot. That one's particularly scary because he entered her home.
Yeah.
You know? On the 8th of August 1994, 9-year-old Diana Roboler had left her home to walk to the supermarket, but she never returned home. Her body was found the following day, left in a loading dock behind a building. Diana had been beaten, sexually assaulted, and strangled. Police were able to connect the murder of Diana to Maria's, as Anthony had left behind the murder weapon, a rope with a bamboo stick still around her neck. On the 6th of July 1995, Anthony spotted 16-year-old Dana Sanchez using a payphone. This is when he offered her a lift in his van. She accepted. He attempted to sexually assault her before strangling her. Her body was found 7 days later in a field after an anonymous call was made to a local news station. It was later discovered to have been Anthony who placed the call.
Why did they... Yeah, I knew that would come in as soon as you said there were a call made. Is it they want to be caught, or is it...
I think sometimes they want to be caught, but I think for a lot of them they're enjoying seeing the news come in of the murders.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always wondered, is it I'm doing something well, but I'm not getting recognition for it?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Laurie's murder was not immediately linked to the others, as she had been strangled using a ligature rather than a tourniquet. Police asked Anthony why he had changed his method of strangulation that he had been using to carry out the murders. He told them, quote, "Because I hurt my finger while murdering Tremblay."
Fucking hell.
Very matter of fact. Very is what it is.
Yeah.
So, remember, at this point, Tiffany hasn't seen her father in years. And because he never really served any time in prison for the crimes against his children, she was always worried that he would appear one day.
Yeah.
But I'm sure she never envisioned turning on the TV to see the news that her father was a serial killer. Amber had left home at 15, and Tiffany didn't hear from Amber often, but this revelation did trigger a phone call. She still remembers Amber's words, "Dad's a serial killer." You know, sometimes with killers, they kind of have their own moral code, don't they? You know, whether it's they don't hurt animals or children, or, you know, they wouldn't actually dream of hurting their own.
Yeah.
I mean, Anthony didn't have such a moral dilemma. It seemed as though anyone was fair game.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, he hurt animals, he hurt kids, women,
His own kids.
his own kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is usually the case. Like, I can't remember what case it is. I think I've mentioned it before on the podcast, and no one helped me. It was a guy in California, and he was a real family man. And I think he used to... It were people who'd be out jogging on this certain footpath, and he'd use a ligature and he'd strangle them. And he was doing it for years. Years and years. And when he finally got caught, when they were interviewing people who knew him and worked with him and stuff, not one person had a bad word to say about him.
Mm-hmm.
He was literally living a double life. But yeah, this guy is it's just a piece of shit through and through.
All round shite-hawk. Anthony's trial began in October of 2004. The prosecutor for Anthony's trial was Kelly Siegler. Familiar, no?
No.
She's one of the women from, do you remember that show Cold Justice you used to love?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the blonde one.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was the prosecutor for Anthony's trial. Yeah, I thought you'd enjoy that little bit of trivia. Although Anthony had confessed to a further 3 murders and the sexual assault of Selma, Anthony was only charged with the murder of Maria. The reason being, this case contained the most forensic evidence. From the crimes he committed outside of the family home, the court heard from the sole survivor of his attacks, 14-year-old Selma. Both Tiffany and Amber also testified against their father.
Good. I was about to ask.
So you've got a 14-year-old girl and his 2 kids.
Yeah. How old would they be at this point?
I think they would have been grown.
Yeah.
A particularly nauseating detail for Tiffany and Amber to get their heads around is that the women and girls that their father had murdered shared a resemblance to them in that they were all young with dark hair and dark eyes.
I knew that would come in.
Also, that they were living with their father while he was committing these crimes. If he was out late, it was just assumed that he was working late. Something Tiffany later realised would have been more unusual in Anthony's line of work as a telephone technician. But, as a kid.
Yeah.
The jury took just under an hour to return a verdict. Anthony was found guilty of murder, with a recommendation that he receive the death penalty. On the 15th of November, as the jury had recommended and as he had requested himself, Anthony was sentenced to death. Anthony's sisters have said about his sentence, quote, "I would have never been for the death penalty if it had not been for my brother. I know in my heart, without a doubt, that there are more. There had to have been other girls." His other sister simply said, "He should be killed."
Oh.
Before his execution took place, Tiffany had stated that she wanted to attend her father's execution. Not that she necessarily wanted to see her father die, but that she wanted the closure to know that he would never be able to hurt another person again.
Yeah.
Although, closer to the time, she stated, quote, "Honestly, I have a biology lab and calculus that day, so I'm going to go to school. Maybe I'll see a movie later if I have free time." She's obviously kind of like, you know what? I'm getting on with my life.
Yeah. Fair fucks to her.
From prison, Anthony wrote to his daughter Tiffany, but she didn't receive the letters until years later. Quote, "Tiffany, I love you. I miss you. God, I miss you so very much. I'm so sorry for everything. I know sorry doesn't make anything okay. Nothing will ever make what happened okay. Nothing. Tiffany, I never ever meant to hurt you. I love you so much.
You absolutely did.
I would do anything to go back to the beginning and undo the nightmare of the past." The contents of this letter, Tiffany has stated, she just feels it's just empty words.
Yeah. What does he mean? I didn't mean to hurt you. You absolutely did.
On the 19th of January 2018, Anthony was put to death by lethal injection at the age of 55. He made a statement before his execution. With a quiver in his voice, he said that he had made peace with the situation. His final statement reads, quote, "I'd like to take a moment to say I'm sorry. No amount of words could ever undo what I've done. To the family of my victims, I wish I could undo the past. It is what it is."
It is what it is.
Mm-hmm. "God bless all of you. I will die with a clear conscience. I made my peace. There is no others. I would like to wish a happy birthday to Barbara Carroll. Today is her birthday. I would like to specifically thank those who have helped me. You know who you are. God bless everyone. Until we meet again, I'm Ready Warden."
What was his last meal?
I don't know.
Ah.
Should have checked. So that was his last official statement.
Mm.
His actual last words came as the injection was being administered.
Ow, that fucking hurts.
Quote, "Ooh-wee, I can feel that."
Just a little prick. You can have that one. I'll let myself out.
Over the years, Tiffany's been very vocal about the abuse she suffered at the hands of her father. Her childhood memories are conflicting. She remembers the good times of her father bringing her to the Renaissance fairs or going to the beach to build sandcastles. And the same man building these wonderful memories, someone she had looked up to, who should have been her protector, was the same person who was tearing these memories down. And that is the case of Anthony Allen Shore, also known as the Tourniquet Killer. Before we leave this case, quick update on Tiffany. Tiffany is now a mother, and she went on to study forensic science. She said that since receiving therapy and support from others, she feels a lot more confident about her life and herself.
Good.
Good woman, Tiffany.
Good. Do you know what's a bit well, it's not ironic. I think that's the wrong word for me to use. That he used something to kill these women that's made to save lives.
Yeah.
That's
Bit twisted.
Yeah. I said ironic. That I don't think it's ironic.
I thought ironic was it made entirely of iron? Yeah, it's a full-on case. You're dealing with
It's just non-stop.
Yeah. Abuse in and out of the home.
It's like you said, he had no boundaries.
No.
At all.
No moral code whatsoever, it seems.
Piece of shit.
Unless his moral code was that he just never hurts men.
He wouldn't dare. He's that type of person, isn't he? A bully.
Snivelling little bastard.
Yeah. I bet he was when he got that little prick.
Ooh wee.
Yeah.
Ooh wee. When I read that, right, this case is so heavy, and I'm like, oh, this is awful. This is terrible. Get down to the end, and I'm like, oh, right, let's look at his execution. Ooh wee. Ooh fucking ee. And he was Texan, so it was one of those, ooh wee.
So, when they're interviewing him,
Mm-hmm.
well, not just him, multiple fucking people who've done it.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, interview him about the murders.
Mm-hmm.
But do they ever ask, do they ever touch on, why did you hurt a cat? Why? What drove you to that?
He was 5 at the time, so I don't think they were really concerned with that during the police interview.
Yeah, but isn't it important to find out what the link is? So, what makes them go to hurt a cat, and then from that, they're hurting people? So
it's the escalation of the situation, isn't it? I'm going to start with something small that I can handle, then I'm going to work my way up.
Yeah, but there must be something what snaps in their head to make them go for the cat.
Mm.
So we need to figure that bit out.
Yeah.
And then we've got no serial killers.
Problem solved.
But then we're out of business.
There's plenty of fucking crimes to talk about. I mean, shite hawks will always be shite hawks, won't they?
Yeah. It is just a coward. Fucking coward. And the letter to his daughter, I'd have wiped my ass on it.
It does seem as though he was ready to be caught in the fact that once he was arrested, he didn't just confess, he confessed to everything. It wasn't just the one. He was literally like, yeah, I did this and that, all these murders.
But again, I think he wanted recognition.
Yes. I think he kind of knew, because obviously he'd had to give DNA.
I know I'm getting life for this one. They can't do anything else.
Yeah. And like I said, he knew he'd had to have given DNA for the previous conviction.
Yeah.
So if he kept an eye on the news and the advancements, he would have known that his days were numbered.
Well, so with him out of the way, what oddity is it?
Did you know that most cruise ships have their own morgues?
No.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, why the fuck not? They've got everything else on board on a cruise from what I've never been on a cruise, but from what I've heard. And I mean, I also kind of think of cruises as like an old person's holiday. It's a higher likelihood of...
Is it?
Do you not? Old people love cruises.
No. Anyone likes a cruise.
There's loads of young people that go on cruises, but old people fucking love cruises. About it. I bet if you messaged your parents now, would you go on a cruise? They both say yes.
But they like going on boats.
Yeah, it's a bit of a setup, that one, isn't it? Have they ever been on a cruise?
No.
So the morgues themselves are refrigerated stainless steel rooms located on the lowest deck of the ship. And depending on the size of the ship, the morgues are equipped to hold between 2 and 10 bodies.
What, depending on the size of the corpse?
Depending on the size of the ship.
Oh.
How much space they have. If a passenger or crew member dies while on board the ship officials have to notify authorities while medical team assess the body and move it to be stored in the morgue. The body may be removed from the ship at the next port, or, more commonly, they stay put in the morgue for the remainder of the journey.
Bit morbid, innit?
Yeah. Crew members are trained to support the travel companions of the deceased, but the cruise lines themselves are under no legal obligation to cover any expenses. So, if you're going on a cruise, make sure you double check your accidental death and dismemberment benefits. Yes, dismemberment benefits, that's an actual title.
Really?
Yeah, apparently. You learn something new every day.
Some of what's just popped into my head. How ironic would it be? Because CrimeCon in America, they're doing a cruise, like a CrimeCon cruise.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine you go to that and, God forbid, you die.
You perish.
And you're in a morgue.
Yeah.
On the CrimeCon cruise.
Yeah. But even if you die, you might still be able to finish your cruise. You're not going to see anything. You're not going to see any of the sights.
Yeah.
But you'll be able to finish the voyage. How's that grab you? What do you think of that? That's interesting, no? When I first heard...
I didn't know. But then again, I never actually thought, because it makes sense.
Exactly.
People die on cruises. What do they do?
Even though you're on a cruise, people still die. Yeah, no, I heard this and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I'm like, well, no, it's kind of just... Of course it is.
I just assumed that stuff them in an empty cabin or their own cabin.
I kind of thought that. When I was like, yeah, you just close the door.
Yeah.
Leave them in there for now. I was like, nah, you can't do that.
Just put a do not disturb on the handle. Like, fuck me, he's been lucky the past 6 nights.
Yeah, no, I mean, it does make sense. Like, you know, I was reading about it, and like one article described it as it's basically a city on the water. They have everything on them.
Yeah.
On the bigger, they're fucking insane.
Yeah, one I was looking at. So obviously they have shops and restaurants and stuff. They had a Ben & Jerry's shop.
Oh, you'd never get me out of there.
Literally just a Ben & Jerry's shop.
I actually know someone who used to work on cruise liners. I should ask him about his experience and if he's ever had to, you know, deal with a situation like this.
I know someone who used to do entertainment. She used to do dancing. It's not dancing.
Oh, the
in the ring.
Aerial acrobatics.
Yeah, she'd like sit in the ring and swing about.
Yeah.
She did that on cruises.
Ask her. Oh. But yeah. Morgues on cruises. Cruise Ship Morgues.
You wouldn't get me in one.
Thank you so much for listening. Find us on Patreon, TikTok, Facebook and Instagram. If you have a case suggestion or maybe even your own story, email us at mortalmusingspodcast@gmail.com.